Yo, what's up, Rare Candy? It's your boy Zach Lesage, and we are back here with another deck profile video. Today we're going to be going over my kind of coveted Fire Toolbox deck. I'm one of the players who's seen the most success with this deck in the game, and it basically revolves around using powerful fire type cards such as Ninetales to bring up Pokemon. We have Giant Hurt to surge out energy, and Welder to attach energies. Now, this deck is filled with plenty of tricks, new Pokemon, and one of the best things that this deck features is going into future sets and looking them over. There's quite often a new Pokemon that you could add into the deck because the requirements of this deck are quite small. So this is a great deck if you're not always looking to invest in a new deck every single set. This deck you could gradually upgrade every single set with new releases. So that being said, I'm excited to show you this deck profile today, and let's get it started. So the card that I'm going to start off with here is Ninetales. And you might be like, oh, Zach, why aren't you starting off with one of the more powerful Pokemon in the deck? Well, this is actually probably the card that the deck revolves around the most. This deck was created going into Worlds 2019, and the reason why this deck works is because 9 Temptations allows you to Gust. Now, with Rebel Clash coming out, we do have Gust, reliable Gust, being added back into the format, but for a Fire-type deck, especially one that plays so many Fire energies, a deck like this can reliably use 9 Temptations multiple times without using a supporter card for your turn. So having free Gusts on a Pokemon for a relatively low cost for a deck like this is absolutely insane. And if there was like a Psychic type Gust, then there would be a Psychic type deck that would be running off a similar engine. So Ninetales is really kind of the core of this deck, and that's what it's going to continuously thrive off of. Then we have Vulpix here. Vulpix is mainly here to evolve into Ninetales. We do play this Vulpix because the other one, with everyone playing Absol and everyone playing Switch to get around Absol, the other one is not as strong as this one. This one gains 10 HP over the other Vulpix, and that is why it is slightly better at this time. If people stop playing Switch and ways to get out of the other Vulpix's attack, the one that came out in Team Up that is, then we might switch back to that one at a future date. Another great thing about this deck is that it has a bunch of consistency cards. So here the deck almost maximizes out on Deandre GX. It plays 3 copies right there, and we're really playing this for Dead Change. There's multiple reasons why you'd want to play this card, because not only does it allow you to gain access to your Welders, it does allow you to get access to discarding cards. Sometimes you want to discard clutter out of your hand, or you're trying to find, use an attack that has fire energies in the discard pile, or you're searching for that one of trainer card, something like that. Deandre will allow us to kind of propel our board state forward. Buckling down more on consistency, this deck does play 4 copies of Jirachi. So the best thing about Jirachi here, again, it does allow you to search out hard to find cards like Welder, and really allows us to thin our deck, because once this deck starts with like a Jirachi, you can search out whatever you need, get things set up relatively quickly, and your deck is just really in a strong position. Now, this is where the deck starts to look like, where is that going with this? One thing that I will say before I start, I did take Reshiram and Charizard GX out of this deck right now for this deck profile. The reason for that being said is when Reshiram and Charizard GX came out in Unbroken Bonds, we were looking at other Pokemon that were tag team Pokemon to hit with its Double Blaze GX. But when they started releasing VMAX Pokemon, it quickly became apparent that 300 damage might not cut it anymore. With popular VMAX Pokemon coming out of Rebel Clash, such as Toxtricity VMAX and Dragapult VMAX, the attackers in this deck therefore have been focused on either 2-shots or on different ways of getting 1-shots with scalable damage. So one of the new ones that we added in, well, not necessarily new that we've added in, but newer cards that have been added into this deck would be Victini V. Victini V is a great way to power up energy very quickly with Spreading Flames. Spreading Flames can allow you to attach up to 6 energies in a turn, with Welder attaching 2, attaching 1 for your turn, and attaching up to 3 with Spreading Flames. And its attack energy burst is a great way to scale your energy with what your opponent's active has. So if your opponent's active Pokemon, such as a Mewtwo and Mew GX, has 6 energies to use Double Blaze GX, something that their deck still might run, you only need to have 3 energies on you to hit for 270 damage to knock them out, being 9 energies total. 9 times 3, 27, 270 damage. So Victini V does allow you to have that kind of mid-range powering up your Pokemon to get set up for a game, whether you're powering up a Turtonator, energies for a Heatran GX, and it allows you to get energy burst off if your opponent attaches too many energies to one Pokemon. It also can attack for 2 energies, so if your opponent is playing a Zacian V, you can attack that Zacian V for less. If so, they have 2 and you have 2, you can get a knockout on them because of weakness. This deck does play one of the new Ninetales V that gets added from Rebel Clash. Its first attack mainly allows you to copy exactly what your opponent's doing. And that's the reason why this card is so powerful. We could power it up in 1 turn with a Welder for 2 energies and attach for turn, and we could copy any of our opponent's attack. So if you think about an attack such as Ultimate Ray on Arceus Dialga Palkia GX, they could go turn 1 with an ADP in the active position, attach an energy to it, and then the Ninetales V can attack with a Welder attachment doing 150 damage and power up 3 energies, and they can knock out an ADP before their opponent even gets everything off. So it's actually kind of an insane kind of option in this deck to scale what your opponent can do for only 3 energies. Now, if their attack were to cost significantly more energies than that, we can do that as well, and you can use that as your GX attack for the game as well. So there's plenty of options with the Ninetales, and I feel like it would be absolutely absurd not to play it in this deck. As this early in the Rebel Clash format, we'd have to see a little bit more how Rebel Clash kind of fully develops, but Ninetales V seems like a staple. Now, if your opponent has an attack that you can't necessarily copy or you don't want to copy, you also have the option of doing 180 damage. In my testing, I haven't really used that attack too often, but it is something to consider. Next up is Heatran GX, probably my favorite card in the entire deck, and that's because it can attack super efficiently. It can do 130 for 3, which is great to knock out your opponent's Pokemon, such as Jirachi if they start a Zacian in the active position, a Minccino, an Inkay. You can often steal games turn 1 and put yourself so far ahead of the prize trade where you're like, I'm drawing a prize card every single turn. If you can't keep up with that, you will lose the game. I like that its Hot Burn GX is very similar to Double Blaze GX. I often compared the two, especially when my preparations for OCIC, in which I was a finalist there. We had Hot Burn GX, which for 6 energies it does 300, Double Blaze GX does 300, but the best thing about this card is it is scalable, unlike Double Blaze GX. So you could actually scale the Hot Burn GX to do 350 damage if necessary to attack your opponent's Pokemon, such as Dragapult VMAX. Now, as Pokemon gain more and more HP, this card can continuously do more and more damage. We got Volcanion. So Volcanion is one of the Pokemon that we want to go to on our first turn. We got Flare Starter, so you could search your deck for up to 3 fire energies if you're going second, which is great with this deck because you want to go second, so you could use Welder first. This is a deck that wants to go second. However, if you are going first, you can use Jirachi into Dene. So this deck is really in a good position no matter what, but it does want to go second. So whether you're getting a knockout on your opponent's active Pokemon, or if you miss the Welder, or if you hit the Welder, Flare Starter is a great way to power up your board for a single energy. High Heat Blast is also a super efficient attack, hitting for 50, which can knock out things like Jirachi because it's multiplied by 2 because of weakness. Or if you have 4 fire energies in play, you can actually knock out things like Zacian because 50 plus 60 times 2 equals 110 times 2 is 220. So a lot of capabilities from the Volcanion. Another card that we have is Turtonator. So what do we do with all those extra energies that we've banked in play? You have Volcanion and Victini that can power up Pokemon, Welder that can power up Pokemon. Turtonator can take all those energies and make it turn into a giant explosive jet. And similar to Hot Burn GX, it scales at 50 damage, so it could do the same kind of range of attack that we have there. And we have Victini Prism Star. So how do we get back those energies? We can get back all of our energies from Ninetales, discarding from Turtonator, discarding things in general, and shuffle them back into our deck to do a lot of damage. This deck does play slightly less energy than I did at OCIC. The reason for that being is I'm not going to scale my energy for the HP that we have in our format, at least not yet. So I don't reasonably think I'm knocking out a Dragapult VMAX with a Victini Prism Star, at least not in one hit. So the Victini Prism Star is going to be that great Dedenne GX killer. I think it's going to be knocking out other GX Pokemon, EX, V, all of those types of Pokemon. I don't necessarily think it's knocking out Pokemon that are approaching 400 HP. One of the other new cards that we had added into this deck is Eldegoss V in specifically Welder decks. I really enjoy this card because you can grab a Welder back to win the game. I also like it in decks that play Boss's Order, but looking at this deck, a deck that does not play Boss's Order, you can use Ninetales and Eldegoss back for a Welder in the same turn to choose from one of these attackers. So now we're moving on to the Trainer Supporter Stadium section. This deck plays Heat Factory, so this is a simple way for us to draw some more cards. With this deck playing only 4 supporters, we do need as much consistency as possible, so pitching a single Fire Energy, when this deck does play 17, you will be able to draw 3 cards, and it does power up things like Victini Prism Star. You can get energy in the discard pile for Victini V as well. Giant Hearth, I play only 2 copies of this card. I know a lot of decks play 3 copies of this card. I've counteracted that by adding in an extra copy of Fiery Flint. 4 copies of Welder. I don't even really know what to say about this card at this point. At the time of this video, it's been released for about a year, and we still have at least a whole other year going on in this format. Not in this format, with Unbroken Bonds in it, as at least that's what it seems like, and we'll see what the future holds for Pokemon. So being able to attach extra energies and drawing cards to your fire type Pokemon is absolutely insane. So we got Pokemon Communication here. Pokemon Communication will allow us to search out our Pokemon. So we can search out anything. We don't necessarily have a way beyond Pokemon Communication to search out Ninetales. So Ninetales will allow us to, it will just allow us to get out Ninetales, any Pokemon. We do play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 Pokemon, so we will be able to make a lot of use with Pokemon Communication. In this deck, playing 4 copies of Quick Ball. The Quick Ball will allow us to discard whatever we need if anything is necessary to discard, such as Fire Energies for Victini V or for Victini Prism Star. We also have Switch in this deck. Switch is mainly here for Jirachi, but it does work out well with things like Heatran GX, so that you could bring all your energies to the Heatran GX that you put out there. Or there's Pokemon with hefty retreat costs, such as Turtonator, so it is something to consider. And now we have 2 copies of a Skateboard. Again, this is really only a card for Jirachi in this deck. There's no other reason beyond that. However, if you are having a Vulpix in the active position, you can retreat it for 1 less. So that seems like something that we could have. 2 copies of Fiery Flint. So I spoke about it a little bit with the Giant Hearth there. We do have Giant Hearth and Fiery Flint, so we can search out an ample amount of fire energies, whether we need them for Welder, a natural attachment, or Ninetales to bring up our opponent's Pokemon. That does seem like it fits really well in this deck. Got a copy of Palpad. What other way to get back our important supporters with the Welder? I think the Palpad's really just giving us up to 6 Welders if we really need it, because sometimes you will be forced to discard Welder with the Dedenne GX, and it just kind of sucks to do that. Welder, or Palpad, will allow us to get back Welder. Another new addition from Rebel Clash, or should I say semi-new addition, would be Tool Scrapper. With a lot of the popularized Zacian ADP lists playing Metal Frying Pan, and there's a lot of other spooky tools that are being played, especially like with Giant Bomb in Dragapult VMAX, or Spell Tag in Malamar, or we even have the new Curse Shovel that can be played in control decks. Tool Scrapper does seem like it is going to make a little bit of use in this deck. 1 copy seems fair enough. And then we have 17 copies of Fire Energies. So it seems like an appropriate amount to get enough action with our Victini. And to attach energies with Welder. I've seen decks that run more. I've seen decks that run less. I know that's a little messy for the energies. How else are you supposed to place 17 energies for a deck like this? I know, it's crazy, right? So we have enough energies to search things out, to discard energies, to use 9 Temptations reliably every single turn. Whatever we really need with this deck, 17 seems like an appropriate number. So that's what we got here today, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, one of my favorite decks of all time, and I think it's going to be really strong going forward in the Rebel Clash format. If you like this type of content, be sure to like the video. Subscribe to the channel to see exactly what we got going on there. We got a lot of great content lined up for all of you during this time. We do have our Patreon. You could become a patron, patreon.com/rarecandytcg. Sign up there. We also have rarecandytcg.com if you're looking to pick up some merch. I am Zach Lesage. You can follow me on Twitter at ZLesage Pokemon. But I'll catch up with y'all later. Be sure to stay tuned on the channel and check out our future videos.